The moment this guy opens his eyes, he freezes. He's no longer in the actual world, he's inside his favorite game, and it gets worse. When he glances around, he sees goblins butchering hapless farmers right in front of him. The locals yell at him to run for his life, but at that very moment, a system window pops up, politely asking him one thing: which class does he wish to choose? This compels Alan to make a strategic choice at his job selection screen. While most would choose a fighting class, he selects the craftsman. In the original game, this was considered a useless trap job, considering that the things made were usually weak. However, Alan discovers that in a reality where his past knowledge carries over, he may leverage a specific mechanic, the power to make anything, as long as he understands its physical structure. With Alan having spent his prior life researching current technologies and intricate engineering, he isn't limited to medieval tools. He holds out his hands and uses his mana to build a modern assault rifle, a weapon with power well beyond what a level 1 character should possess. The locals are surprised to see a purportedly weak artisan holding such a bizarre contraption. Our boy simply cocks the rifle and opens fire, riddling the goblins with bullets. In a world trapped in the medieval centuries, being able to materialize current ballistics makes the craftsman class a god-tier profession. To assist the town protect itself, Alan manufactures 2 more guns and distributes them to the locals. Although they are reluctant and fear hurting their pals, the young guy explains that he has encoded a restriction onto the weapons, so they can only damage monsters. He even shoots one of the villagers in the chest to prove they are safe, much to the man's initial panic. As the settlers begin gunning down the last goblins, a level-up notification pops before Alan. He understands that when others use his created gear to kill monsters, a percentage of those experience points flows back to him as the creator. This revelation makes leveling up incredibly efficient. As a show of gratitude, a villager presents him a fire magic stone gathered from a slain goblin. These stones are generally sold for money at guilds, but our hero decides to explore with his crafting skills instead. Just then, a gigantic level 13 goblin knight enters, acting as a monster for the region. The villagers learn that their ordinary weapons are useless against its massive shield, and they persuade Alan to run. Instead, he rushes forward and uses the magic stone as a raw material for a new creation. By devouring the stone's energy, he constructs a high-powered rocket launcher with a big attack modifier and explosive qualities. He aims the launcher and unleashes a single deadly strike that vaporizes the boss in a tremendous explosion. This triumph leads his level to climb directly to 4. He adds that while magic stone weapons are powerful, they break once their energy is depleted, meaning he will have to manage his supplies wisely. The people are left in absolute awe of the novice who just one-shot a boss. While Alan stays modest about his abilities, he has unwittingly become the sole person capable of altering the tides of the long-standing struggle against the Demon Lord. Though he doesn't completely realize the scope of his impact yet, he is more motivated than ever. This time, in this new life, he is certain he will be the first to reach the absolute top. The narrative continues as Alan finds himself in a steep gorge, battling a gigantic rock golem. Although he has previously ascended to level 13, he discovers this level 20 beast is far greater than he anticipated. He attempts to tackle the problem with his usual black assault rifle, but the results are unsatisfactory. Since the golem is formed of stone, the bullets just chip away small fragments that the monster rapidly fixes with green regeneration energy. Our protagonist sees that even upping his weapon's attack power to 175, physical attacks are just not enough to combat such tremendous defensive and healing skills. This obstacle forces him to experiment with a new crafting approach. He decides to add a specialized modification to his rifle, manifesting a metal slot meant to carry magical items. By merging a magic stone he previously took from a golem into this new slot, he attempts to bypass the creature's innate armor. The operation causes blue lightning to surge through the weapon, altering its appearance into a patterned gray design. This alteration successfully infuses his ammunition with a pierce effect, a potent feature that allows his shots to ignore physical defense totally. When the golem lunges forward to crush him, Alan fires a single enhanced shot. As the bullet now possesses magical penetrating capabilities, it creates a huge explosion that shatters the creature into thousands of pebbles. This win brings our hero to level 14. He takes a time to study his gear and finds a specific weakness of this system. While the sword itself remains intact, the magic stone used for the add-on crumbles after the energy is used. This is really a comfort for him, as it means he only has to replace the consumable stone rather than rebuilding the complete handgun. As he picks up a new yellow magic stone from the remnants, he hits level 15. This quick progress is fueled by more than simply his personal difficulties. A notice shows that villagers he previously aided have successfully defended their house from an orc horde using the guns he gave them. Having been to several farming settlements to distribute these contemporary weaponry, Alan is now receiving a steady supply of experience points from throughout the land. He considers this as a type of passive income, allowing him to get stronger while simultaneously making the world a safer place. He feels entirely vindicated in his choice to become a crafter. However, this exceptional expansion captures the attention of the Adventurer Guild headquarters. Inside an assembly hall, high-ranking authorities stare at a miraculous mirror showing Alan's data in bewilderment. They think it incomprehensible that a rookie could rise from level 4 to 15 in a short 4 days, especially with a job class they deem to be rubbish. To investigate, a dark-haired man projects a video of Alan's recent combat against the rock golem. The audience are startled to see a level 15 adventurer using odd technology to swiftly slay a high-defense monster. They determine that despite his level is modest, his true firepower is similar to a level 50 warrior. A stern guy in spectacles watches the tape with a malevolent fascination, implying that Alan might be the specific vessel the guild has been seeking for. Unaware that he is being watched, our protagonist ventures on to a desert location to test his boundaries against a level 27 sandworm boss. He thinks that while the creature has great health, its low defense makes it the perfect target for testing layered modifications. He builds a new handgun with a massive basic attack power and adds an option that further improves its strength. To protect his safety, he also installs a freeze add-on using a magic stone. When the worm lunges, Alan shoots a streak of bullets that swiftly encases the gigantic beast in a pillar of ice. The frozen creature shatters into shards, confirming for Alan that his god-tier profession can even one-shot boss-class adversaries with a simple handgun. As the sun sets, our hero walks into a nearby village to trade his large haul of magic stones for currency. He approaches the guild counter and delivers a mound of colored diamonds, which leaves the receptionist stunned. When he identifies himself as Alan, the woman's demeanor shifts instantaneously. She frantically runs away from the counter, leaving him standing there in uncertainty. Suddenly, the chamber is overrun by heavily armored guards in blue and silver plate mail. A silver-armored guard informs him that he is under suspicion and must be escorted to headquarters immediately. Before Alan can even grasp the situation or defend himself, blue magical chains wrap around his torso, bringing the mighty crafter under arrest. Inside a high-end meeting chamber at the Adventurers Guild headquarters, numerous high-ranking officials sit around a big table as Alan stands in the center, restricted by magical chains. The master of the guild orders the guards to release him, causing the magical ties to shatter and vanish. As the spell disappears, the master confirms the young man's identification and offers an apology for the violent greeting. He explains that his curiosity was stirred on account of how swiftly the youngster has been leveling up, making a personal meeting vital. Alan is entirely unconcerned by the arrest and nonchalantly rubs his wrists while questioning what the guild genuinely wants from him. An furious council member suddenly smashes his hands on the table and demands to know the technical specifics of the odd weapon known as a gun. Alan wisely declines to explain, saying that the technology is much beyond the grasp of humans in this world. This reaction provokes a contemptuous remark from another councilman, who believes that a mere maker is likely inflating the weapon's importance. Recognizing this as a cheap provocation to extract knowledge, our hero decides to provide a tangible illustration instead. He employs his craft talent, producing a contemporary assault weapon in a swirl of blue energy. As the weapon floats onto the table, the council members assess its state and are terrified to find an attack power of 50. Since this power scales with the user's level and allows for 30 consecutive bullets, they recognize it holds the destructive potential of a high-ranking knight. While the officials reel at this finding, Alan turns to depart, explaining that he is busy chasing a level 9999 cap and has no time to spend. The master stops him to inquire if his ultimate objective is to defeat the Demon King. Alan confesses that he intends to handle the threat, especially given the havoc the demon army has caused to human communities. He tells them to make an appointment next time and prepares to go. Before he can go, the master proposes that joining an adventurer clan will make his leveling more effective, and offers to introduce him to a prominent A-rank group. This prompts a wild disagreement among the other council members, who all begin shouting and seeking to attract him into their own chosen organizations. Alan silences the chaos by saying that he has no interest in joining a group due to his penchant for roaming freely. The startled officials eventually accept his refusal, and he quits the room. Once he is gone, the guild master decides to summon the finest blacksmiths in the land to investigate the gun left behind, since they cannot believe a level 15 craftsman could make such advanced machinery. The scene switches to the entrance of the Wolf Mine dungeon, where a big crowd of adventurers has assembled. Alan observes that even in this reality, the areas outside instance dungeons are usually bustling. When a party recruiter tries to invite him, the man takes sight of his level 15 status and flees away in fright, alerting others that the youngster is far too weak for a level 25 dungeon. Alan ignores the comments, knowing that fighting foes 10 levels higher than himself is the most efficient method to grind with the level difference modifier. Suddenly, a woman's scream rips through the crowd. A high-level swordsman named Lucas has trapped a priestess named Emma and is trying to compel her into his party. The surrounding adventurers whisper in terror, admitting that Lucas is a known bully who utilizes his level 65 status to prey on women inside dungeons. When Emma tries to reject, Lucas and his thugs grow even more violent. To halt the harassment, Alan uses his craft skill to generate a large bronze hand from the ground, which knocks Lucas into the dirt. Our hero calmly passes past the frightened girl, explaining the bronze statue was only a mistake during a distance construction test. This infuriates Lucas, who leaps up with a red face and draws a big broadsword to slay the person who disgraced him. However, following his revelation that Alan is only level 15, the swordsman determines that slaying such a weak opponent would tarnish his reputation, and sheathes his blade. As our protagonist tries to go away with Emma, Lucas blocks their path to the dungeon. He suggests a time attack challenge to see who can clear the dungeon faster, saying that if he wins, he will beat Alan's face in and take Emma as his reward. Despite the girl's argument that the match is unfair, our hero groans and accepts the challenge. He informs Lucas that he doesn't even care about a reward for winning, as defeating a small fry like him wouldn't amount to anything anyway. This stinging insult leaves the swordsman immobilized with wrath, perceiving Alan as an arrogant fool who doesn't realize the vast divide in their power. Later, at the Wolf's Mine dungeon entrance, the mood is tense on account of the large level disparity awaiting Alan. Emma gazes at Alan with serious concern since he is just level 15, but the recommended strength for this cavern is level 25. Our boy remained utterly unfazed, claiming that he meant to hunt here from the very beginning. As they go near the blue gate, Lucas mockingly remarks that a solo player like Alan should enlist some scrubs to help him. Our protagonist pauses just long enough to hurl a stinging criticism, pointing out that for a level 65, Lucas definitely seems unable to do anything without a flock of followers. This observation leaves the swordsman in a state of absolute anger, as the young craftsman dismissively shrugs him off and goes toward the entrance. Emma is determined not to let Alan confront the risk alone, so she sends a digital party invitation his way. Although he initially hovers his finger over the refuse button with a fatigued expression, she urgently clings to his arm and pleads to accompany him. She feels guilty for the current situation and refuses to let him go solo. Recognizing her tenacity, the guy sighs and reluctantly accepts the request. As they prepare to enter, Lucas shouts a final spiteful insult, showing his evil intentions to make trouble for Emma later. Unfazed, our protagonist checks the dungeon records and observes that the all-time fastest clear is just over 19 minutes. He feels certain that he can shatter this record with ease. Upon entering the dark, meaty passageways of the mine, the pair is instantly attacked by high-level bats, caterpillars, and zombie warriors. The sheer number of monsters concerns Emma, as she believes they have little possibility of breaking through. Alan considers the horde as nothing more than a flock of scrubs and orders his companion to put aside her useless staff. Given that she is now part of his party, he determines she needs to fight properly. He employs his craft skill, creating a pair of submachine pistols directly into her hands. Emma is astonished by the weapon's immense attack capability, but Alan explains that these weapons are a technology only he can manifest. He trains her on the simple logic of pulling the trigger and begins tearing through the monster horde with his own guns. While Emma begins firing, she rapidly becomes overwhelmed by the strong recoil he purposefully incorporated into the weapons. Our protagonist argues that with the enemy being so densely packed, she will strike something even if she just sprays bullets indiscriminately. He begs her to quit conversing so they may get straight to the boss. Meanwhile, in another part of the mine, Lucas and his party have cleared their own way. A companion points out that Lucas purposely provoked Alan, as this dungeon summons a special bonus boss for first-time challengers. The swordsman grins cruelly, hoping the beginner is slain by the encounter so he may feel vindicated for the earlier shame. On the other side of the dungeon, Alan and Emma reach the stone doors of the darkest chamber in less than 10 minutes. Our hero deadpans that they could have finished twice as fast if Emma hadn't triggered so many traps along the way. While he has received 3 levels from the expedition, Emma has only gained 1, prompting Alan to understand that his passive revenue from the farmers provides significantly more experience than ordinary dungeoneering. Emma is now ready to finish the time attack and urges him forward. As the doors grind open, 2 enormous men emerge from the purple mist instead of 1. They are challenged with both the Queen and King Werewolf, a dual boss encounter reserved for first-timers. The werewolves leap forward with amazing speed, allowing Alan to understand that these beasts are the worst possible matchup for weapons due to their high evasion. He instructs Emma to offer suppressive fire to buy him some time. Even though she fires frequently, the creatures move like blurs and dodge every single shot. The adversaries split up to flank them, causing our hero to divide their targets. He takes on the king and leaves the queen to Emma, despite her frightened complaints that she can't strike a moving target. The queen werewolf jumps through the air, with her claws outstretched toward the frightened priestess. But this is precisely what Alan expected to happen. He remains absolutely calm and clenches his fist while energy pixelates around his hand, allowing him to unleash his craft skill from a distance. In an instant, magical jaws of energy slam shut around the legs of both the king and queen werewolf. This surprise trap bites deep into their flesh and causes blood to splatter as the monsters are slammed against the ground. Emma watches in a state of shivering shock because the dreadful monsters have been completely pinned. Alan glances back at his partner with a calm stare and explains that he only wanted her to buy him a few seconds of time. The priestess glances at the caged monsters in surprise, since she had no clue the craft skill could be employed for crowd control in such a way. Our hero is delighted with the result, as it proves his prior testing on distance crafting were successful. He turns his focus back to the king werewolf and produces a black handgun. Given that the monster is confined and unable to dodge his shots, Alan considers the boss as little more than a regular rabble. With a callous expression, he pulls the trigger and terminates the creature's life. As the remains of the boss float away into purple particles, our hero leans down to pick a purple magic stone from the floor. Emma goes approaching him while joyfully brandishing her submachine guns to convey that she has killed off the queen as well. A notice suddenly emerges to announce that they have cleared the wolf mine in just 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Because this is a new all-time record, the priestess is shining with excitement. Alan records the time and secretly determines that he would return to smash this record solo later to earn the top spot for himself. With the dungeon ended, they both proceed toward the blue escape portal. Outside the dungeon, local villagers are busy thanking other adventurers for their support. While our hero and his friend travel through the mob, the priestess asks about the submachine gun she is still clutching. Alan nonchalantly assures her she can keep using it. Their presence makes a stir among the neighboring adventurers who recognize them from the earlier argument with Lucas. They feel it is impossible for the pair to have finished so quickly and mockingly propose that the rookies must have given up and run away while the bullies weren't looking. Our lad stops and looks back sharply to correct them, indicating explicitly that they have already cleared the dungeon. This claim prompts the other adventurers to chuckle because they think he is speaking an obvious falsehood to save face. They even offer not to inform Lucas about their perceived cowardice if he will simply be honest. Alan stays unmoved and encourages them to check the record crystal behind them, as their names should now be at the top. The critics claim this is a joke, as a level 15 craftsman shouldn't even match the level threshold for the location, let alone set a world record. When one man eventually touches the crystal, his eyes widen as the official ranking is displayed. The crowd is stunned in awe to see that Alan and Emma have truly established a record of 9 minutes and 48 seconds. They cannot grasp how a seemingly weak class achieved something that took everyone else considerably longer. Our hero provides a hint by manifesting many firearms in the air and stating that his unique weapons are the answer to their uncertainty. One adventurer checks the submachine gun and is overwhelmed to see an attack power of 153, which is extraordinarily high for their level. Emma joyfully displays how easy the weapon is to use by replicating the firing movement, while the crowd grows increasingly impatient to see the gear for themselves. As Alan walks away to avoid wasting further time, he crosses a female with long white hair and crimson attire who observes him with bright yellow eyes. She keeps silent as he goes into the distance. A few more minutes later, Lucas and his party finally emerge from the dungeon door, looking fatigued but confident. Having finished in just under 50 minutes, the swordsman is positive they have won the time attack. He sits on the ground with his teammates to wait for the rookies to come out so they may gloat. His companions chuckle and imply that the kids are certainly dead by now. The adventurer who checked the crystal earlier approaches the party and informs Lucas that his opponents have already gone home. The swordsman initially chuckles and assumes they tucked tail and bolted, but the man corrects him by stating that they actually cleared the dungeon. Lucas refuses to believe that two losers could surpass his time, but the adventurer insists they cleared it faster than anybody else in history. Following this news, the bully lunges at the record crystal himself. When he sees the names of Alan and Emma next to the 9-minute mark, his face pales with panic and sweat. Realizing he has been thoroughly defeated by someone he looked down upon, Lucas falls to his knees and yells in absolute wrath. The scene switches to a dark, moonlit office where a man sits at a desk. He checks a dossier containing images of Alan and his current weapons, noting that the record-breaking strength makes him the real deal. He calls a masked assassin into the room to negotiate a request. The man slips the paperwork and a big bag of money over the desk, making it apparent that the young artisan has become a huge target. With a final, direct instruction, he tells the assassin to kill Alan. Wary of Lucas's reprisal, Emma chooses to shift her base for safety. Standing in a walled courtyard, she bows low to thank Alan for his protection. When Alan neutrally offers to drive the bully away himself, Emma refuses with quiet determination, saying that as an adventurer, she must stand on her own feet. Alan respects her resolve and bids her leave. With a final playful spark, Emma humorously warns him not to break her wolf mine record before skipping away. A computerized notification appears, saying Emma has departed the party. A few days later, the scene switches to a large desert canyon, where our lad has come to explore the limits of his crafting ability. Now at level 24, he stretches out his palm and lets energy swirl about him as he activates his craft skill. He thinks to himself that his future efficiency hinges on this working right. A surge of blue lightning strikes the earth as a modern military tank materializes before him. After checking the outside is immaculate, Alan steps into the dark cockpit. He is happy to find the displays and controls have been flawlessly recreated, but when he instructs the vehicle to proceed forward, it sits utterly motionless. He understands that while he can make sophisticated structures like an AK-47 or other traps, amorphously structured substances like water, electricity, and gasoline cannot be generated. Luckily, this setback was within his expectations, and he already had a countermeasure ready. Since the world of Zero Fantasy Online utilizes magic stones as a general-purpose energy source, he reasons that his modern machines should be able to run on them as well. He presses a green magic stone into a slot on the dashboard, and the tank roars to life, kicking up dust as it races ahead. However, the victory is short-lived as the engine suddenly grinds to a halt with a whiff of smoke. Upon checking the slot, he finds the stone has fractured into unusable shards. He recognizes that he just doesn't have the personal power to operate a tank yet, given that a machine of that magnitude requires much higher-grade magic stones than what he presently possesses. The tank melts back into pixels, leaving Alan alone in the canyon. Despite the setback, he is encouraged by the idea that magic stones can really work as a power source, so he chooses to try something smaller. He holds out his hand and creates a voice recognition drone equipped with 4 rotors. The contraption whirs into the sky at his order, and while floating above the jagged cliffs, Alan views a live camera stream on a tablet. He notes that the drone could potentially be used for combat if he armed it with a gun. While examining the tape, he discovers several shadows lurking behind the rocks nearby. Recognizing that he is being observed, he recalls the goons from the wolf mine and senses a powerful bloodlust coming from these new viewers. As being watched leaves a nasty taste in his mouth, Alan creates a submachine pistol with a drum magazine and begins running toward the hidden figures to ask about their business immediately. High on a ledge, 5 cloaked assassins notice him approaching. They are level 65 veterans, and feel a low-level player shouldn't be able to sense them due to their passive stealth skills. Their confidence is crushed when Alan unexpectedly comes right behind them. The group jumps back in horror, and the leader, a gray-haired man with a purple mask, orders his team to kill the boy since they have been detected. One assassin expresses concern about the quickness of Alan's weapon, but the boss ignores the threat. He falsely assumes that Alan's guns cannot damage humans based on earlier observations, and he reminds his crew that their target is only in his level 20s. Our hero stares at them with a stern gaze and tells the leader that he has it backward, before labeling him an idiot. The assassins encircle Alan at the edge of the canyon, and the leader mockingly brands his crew cowards as they abruptly vanish utilizing high-level stealth skills. Alan recognizes he is dealing with very trained specialists, but he maintains cool since he chose a weapon specifically tailored for rapid shooting. As an assassin dives through the air behind him with a sword, stating the gun won't leave a scratch, Alan spins around and pulls the trigger. The submachine gun flashes fast, riddling all 5 men with bullets and spilling blood across the desert floor. With the cloaked men falling, our hero informs them they should have come up with a better plan if they wanted to challenge someone with a submachine gun. He walks near the bleeding leader, who is quivering on the ground in shock that the bullets have caused harm. Alan explains that while he generally keeps a safety restriction on his weapons to prevent inadvertent injury to humans, he switched it off on account of them looking suspect from the very beginning. He levels the barrel to the man's head and demands to know who hired them. The boss flashes a frightening smirk and explains that as assassins, they simply do whatever mission they are given. He warns Alan that he might not have done anything wrong, but a certain big shot wants him killed, since he is simply too strong. Before our hero can learn more about this unusual client, the assassin bites down on a hidden poison pill and dies. Following the body dissolving, Alan is left bewildered, asking why anyone would be terrified of a player that is only level 24. His thoughts are interrupted as a girl with long white hair approaches nearby. She compliments him for turning the tables on veteran assassins, and when Alan warily questions if she is with them, she laughs and swears she is genuinely on his side. This girl named Melissa further promotes a partnership, claiming that teaming together would be a profitable arrangement. Alan quickly rejects the offer with a disdainful glance, saying that he has no need for teamwork, now or ever. However, a short recollection of Emma, trapped in the wolf mine, rushes across his head, compelling him to acknowledge that there was at least one person he worked with previously. Melissa is plainly offended by his prickly attitude, but swiftly adjusts tactics to attract his attention. Standing over the corpses of the dead assassins, she says that she has knowledge regarding who hired them, and offers to share it in exchange for his assistance. This knowledge causes Alan to turn back with an earnest and serious face. Before she offers the response, Melissa wants to prove his identification as the adventurer who destroyed the wolf mine speed record. He considers the query needless and advises she simply check his status, but she points out that he currently has his information hidden from public view. Realizing he likely toggled the setting by accident due to the aggravation of his growing reputation, the young man modifies his interface to expose his data. When the status screen opens, Melissa is shocked to see that the hero who finished a high-level dungeon in record time is only level 24. She admits to herself that she expected him to be at least level 80, and is caught off guard by his comparatively low level. Fairness necessitates that she expose her own status in return, identifying her as a level 50 sorcerer. Once the introductions are resolved, Alan takes the topic back to the hit put out on him. Melissa affirms she wants something in return for the name of the criminal, and points toward the sky to signify her price. High above the sky floats the Crystal Sky Castle, a top-tier dungeon with a recommended level of 50. She notes that the area is highly dangerous since it is packed with a massive range of random enemies and bosses, making it impossible to prepare for specific encounters. Because the castle is also loaded with dangerous traps that may kill seasoned veterans quickly, the difficulty is deemed high. At the very bottom of the dungeon sits the Crystal Dragon, a boss in an entirely different league than anything before. The sorcerer specifically wants Alan to assist her retrieve the Jade Dragon Orb, a top-tier material dropped by the last boss. While she silently believes a level 24 player can survive such a setting, our hero accepts the arrangement without a single moment of hesitation. This instant consent shocks Melissa, who wonders if he really heard her warnings about the level requirement and the hazard. Alan nonchalantly dismisses her concerns, remarking that he likely knows more about the dungeon than she does. Privately, he recalls on having cleansed the castle innumerable times in his prior existence. He decides to play along simply, as he needs to kill whoever is targeting him, so he can get back to his work without hindrance. As they prepare to move out, Melissa stops him to discuss a big logistical problem. With the castle being at an extraordinary altitude, explorers normally have to obtain a government application to undertake a teleportation rite. Alan realizes this is the equivalent of talking to a teleportation NPC in the original game. Unfortunately, the rite has a strict level restriction, meaning players below level 40 are kept out. Given that he is only level 24, Melissa believes they are stuck. She further claims that a team of 2 is insufficient, arguing they require a dedicated tank for defense and a healer for buffs. As a sorcerer who specializes on area of effect magic, she claims she cannot deal enough single-target damage to slay the boss alone. She proposes taking the next 3 months to grind Alan's level up to 40, but the guy refuses to wait. He states that his goal is to be the first person in the world to attain level 999, and he has no intention of letting trifling concerns like level requirements slow him down. Melissa finds this as ludicrous, but the young artisan begins examining the physics of the world. He believes that while the castle is too high for ordinary flight magic, there must be a physical means to get it without the rite. He activates his craft talent and constructs a miniature 4-rotor drone, which he powers with a blue magic stone. Melissa watches in confusion while the equipment whirs to life and obeys his directions. The drone ascends through the clouds and successfully reaches the outer walls of the castle, indicating that there are no mystical obstacles impeding a physical approach. While Melissa is enthusiastic and offers they create a giant version of the drone to carry a full party of adventurers, Alan opposes the notion. He adds that a larger drone would have awful fuel efficiency and would surely crash. He further stuns her by declaring that they don't need any additional party members and that he could certainly finish the dungeon solo. To overcome the transportation issue, he discloses that he isn't going to employ magic stones as a power source. Instead, he proposes to exploit a whole new energy source. This leaves the sorcerer looking over her shoulder in absolute uncertainty. Alan needs her to comprehend his strategy. So he clarifies that the energy source for their voyage is actually Melissa herself. She is naturally stunned by the information, but he reminds her that a sorcerer can manipulate numerous characteristics like fire and wind. He aims to use those skills as fuel. He activates his craft skill in a burst of blue digital particles to construct a solution. A gigantic wicker basket and a pile of white fabric materialize on the ground, which he describes as a hot air balloon. To start things moving, he urges Melissa to hop into the basket and use her wind magic to inflate the fabric. She focuses her power and shoots a spiral of green wind magic upward, effectively filling the balloon. Next, Alan explains that they need to heat the air within to create lift. He proposes she employ a spell called Flaming Hand, since it requires the least amount of mana. Once she paints her arms in orange flames, the air inside the balloon heats up and the basket abruptly lifts off the ground. Melissa is startled by the quick ascension, but Alan calmly explains that they are floating, owing to the change in air density. He warns her that she must keep the fire blazing until they reach the dungeon, as the air cooling will force them to fall to their deaths. Although she concerns about spending her mana before the actual action begins, he reassures her that he would handle any adversaries they find. This demonstration of inventiveness prompts Melissa to gaze at him with rising wonder. Despite his low level, she begins to believe that they could actually be able to clear this high-tier dungeon together. The couple successfully arrives at the stone gates of the Crystal Sky Castle. Melissa is fatigued and shivering from the exertion of powering their trip, but Alan congratulates her on a job well done. As they reach the hallway, they see several other adventurer parties are already there. Our hero notices that this is an open dungeon, meaning they are in a race against others. Another group finishing first would drive them out, so he thinks they should ignore the weaker creatures and hurry for the objective. While they race through the castle, Melissa tries to describe the layout of the 3 floors. She is surprised when Alan admits he already knows they need to acquire 3 crystals from the lower floor to advance. He jokingly refuses to disclose how he knows this information, reminding her of her own earlier covert behavior. Their journey is unexpectedly interrupted when they round a corner and find a swarm of adventurers barred by a level 45 Abyss Minotaur. Melissa proposes they locate a different floor to escape the incident, but Alan refuses to waste time on longer routes. Alan walks past the hesitating adventurers and urges them to step aside if they aren't going to fight. The other warriors taunt him after noticing his low level, playfully asking the newbie to take on the boss himself. While Melissa frantically cautions him that her mana hasn't recovered enough to help, our hero stays unaffected. He generates a magic stone gathered from a sandworm and activates his craft talent. A launcher materializes in his arms, having a startling attack strength of almost 30,000 with its bonuses included. As the Minotaur roars and prepares to strike, Alan pulls the trigger with a steely expression. A tremendous explosion engulfs the boss, vaporizing it quickly. The surrounding adventurers are stunned speechless by the one-shot kill, as a notice verifies the boss has been defeated. This triumph advances our hero to level 25. While the others struggle to understand what they just witnessed, Alan quietly gathers the yellow crystal reward, along with a new magic stone from the monster's remnants. He promptly races forward to the next area, leaving a surprised Melissa to wonder if the craftsman job is actually a lousy class at all. They ultimately reach a ledge overlooking a dark abyss, known as the Path of the Abyss. The crowd of adventurers is stopped here, due to the floor appearing cut off. Our protagonist explains that the way isn't gone, but is rather only transparent. To prove the danger, he observes as a man walks forward and falls into the darkness. Alan comments that while the typical method entails using a staff to feel for the floor, doing so would merely cause the other participants to follow and crowd them. Melissa proposes he simply build a bridge, but the young guy points out that if skills were allowed, people would have just employed flight magic. He asks her to attempt casting a spell, and she finds that magic and talents are absolutely constrained in this specific place. This means Alan cannot use his craft skill either, but he keeps a confident face as he prepares to present another alternative. He stands ready to advance with only 2 crystals left to find before they may reach the middle floors. Although the dungeon's magic restriction stops him from using his craft ability directly, he finds he can still pull objects from his inventory that he procured previously. He creates a blue digital instrument with several lenses, which naturally raises Melissa's curiosity. Alan reveals that these are night vision goggles he constructed using a mystical stone from an evil bat. Detecting infrared light, these goggles allow him to view the thermal signature of the hidden path that is otherwise invisible to the human eye. This revelation upsets Melissa. who recalls a period during their hot air balloon journey where the protagonist was concentrated on creating, while she was simply enjoying the view. She comes to realize that her buddy has a level of insight of the dungeon's mechanics that shouldn't be feasible for a newbie. Once the spectacles are on, the world morphs into a green, translucent maze in Alan's eyes, revealing him exactly where the floor is. To save time and guarantee they don't tumble, he swiftly sweeps Melissa up into a princess carry. While she panics at the sudden physical touch, he tells her to be silent so she doesn't bite her tongue. He then dashes directly into the empty air, dashing across the Fanta route at high speed. The other adventurers on the platform can only watch in absolute bewilderment as a low-level player seemingly flies across the chasm. Melissa begs him to slow down, but Alan maintains completely calm until they land safely on firm ground on the opposite side. They soon reach a fork in the hallway where the path splits. Our protagonist adds that while both methods eventually lead to a crystal, it is better to stick together to assure Melissa's safety. He admits that if she dies, he loses his only source of information regarding the assassins who are targeting him. This rationale pushes them to go toward the route of condemnation, a tiny bridge guarded by huge blood-stained scythes that swing back and forth. With the magic restriction unlocked in this location, Alan generates a rifle and fires multiple high-powered bullets, breaking the traps into bits. Melissa is relieved to learn that her own magic is also available again, and they race forward to the Room of Precipices. Standing before an impossibly high wall, the pair learns that the surface is covered in a purple, slippery slime that makes climbing difficult. Melissa offers deploying the balloon again, but Alan notes that such a massive gadget would be excessive for this specific hurdle. Instead, he employs his craft skill to manifest a vertical metal platform, fitted with rails and a control panel. He introduces this as an elevator, a concept utterly unfamiliar to Melissa. By pushing a single button, the platform propels them straight to the top, where they successfully claim the second crystal. The quest for the final gem brings them to the Room of the Poison Swamp, a cavern filled with a green lake of deadly water. Melissa expects another strange creation, but she is mildly disappointed when Alan merely makes a conventional wooden rowing boat. He explains that a simple answer is best for a simple problem, but he leaves out the oars on purpose. This compels Melissa to act as the engine, utilizing her wind magic to create a vortex that propels the boat across the toxic lake. While she feels the load of the task is a bit unfair, they swiftly reach the pedestal and grab the third and final crystal. As they finish the floor, Melissa thinks on how easy the journey has been. While Alan attributes their achievement to the crafting job being the strongest profession, the sorcerer recognizes the truth is that the man himself is the one who is special. She watches him walk away, confident that she is seeing the rise of an explorer who would someday make history. A few minutes later, they arrive in the transfer room. Alan slips the 3 glowing crystals into a central pedestal, starting a teleportation rite that brings them to the middle floors. They arrive in a blue-lit chamber, confronting a whirling dark blue gateway. Our hero remarks that the layout is unusual, since it feels like a dungeon within a dungeon, comparing it to a Matryoshka doll. When Melissa wonders what that is, he offers to craft one for her after they conquer the castle. However, before they can pass through the final portal, Melissa's expression turns somber. She stops him and places her palm over her chest, looking him directly in the eye to suggest a match between them before they go any farther. Since she has acquired intelligence on the middle floors, she realizes that the initial portion consists of a dark hall packed with a massive swarm of weak monsters. The dungeon tracks the number of kills throughout this battle. She boldly offers a competition to see who can take down the most adversaries. Alan initially stares at her coldly, observing that the conditions are skewed in her advantage, as her vocation as a sorcerer is built for area of effect strikes, while his weaponry is normally for single targets. Melissa stays provocative, explaining that her magic is more than simply a power source for transportation, and that she wishes to prove the true usefulness of her class. Our boy quietly accepts the challenge, figuring that a little competitiveness will help them clear the floor faster anyway. They agree that the loser must treat the winner to a top-shelf potion after they are completed. Entering the first floor of the central area, the pair is immediately faced with a horde of 1,500 monsters standing ready in the darkness. As the trial begins, Melissa wastes no time and envelops herself in dark energy to produce a tremendous purple explosion dubbed Black Nebula. As this magic consumes a big amount of the rushing army at once, she feels confident in her clearing power. However, the young artisan goes forward and utilizes his skill to manifest a gigantic Gatling cannon with a staggering attack power of 500. Although he cannot move while firing the heavy weapon, its automatic reloading and high rate of fire allow him to rip through rows of creatures like a hot knife through butter. Melissa is left in total astonishment, since the technology is on an entirely different level than normal magic. Despite her refusal to concede, the gap in their effectiveness becomes evident. 2 minutes later, the holographic scoreboards disclose the final results. Alan has secured 811 kills, while Melissa has only managed 689. As our protagonist stands calmly over the beaten army, the sorcerer sits on the floor, in a state of fatigue, unable to believe she lost in her own area of competence. He advises her not to be so downcast, indicating that she merely picked the wrong opponent. Melissa watches him walk away, fully recognizing now that she is dealing with a complete outlier, who violates the logic of their universe. They transition into the stone passageways of the second middle floor, which Alan recognizes as the final hurdle before the Crystal Dragon's chamber. Melissa muses on how easy the dungeon feels with him at her side, despite its tremendous difficulty rating. But their conversation is cut short when a bright light explodes at the end of the hall. A gigantic crystal ogre, riding a crystal manticore, emerges, both at level 50. Melissa feels they need to find a means to split the couple up to tackle their coordinated strikes, but Alan offers a more straightforward answer. He constructs a sleek black rocket launcher, yet Melissa discovers that 16,000 attack power is actually lesser than the one he used previously. Our hero says that this is a conventional build rather than an overboosted magic stone variant, so it won't break after a single shot. As the bosses charge, Alan recognizes the manticore has great evasion and will likely evade a frontal assault. This compels him to alter tactics, so he directs Melissa to freeze the ground with her ice magic. Once the stone floor turns slick with ice, the charging beast is forced to leap into the air to retain its momentum. This is exactly what our boy wanted, as a creature without wings has no mobility once it is hung in midair. He aims for a direct shot to end the fight swiftly, but the ogre performs an unimaginable maneuver by utilizing the manticore's back as a stepping stone to launch itself further higher. The rocket vaporizes the manticore in a tremendous explosion, but the ogre remains unharmed and begins descending from the roof with its club lifted. Our protagonist is caught off guard by a movement pattern that shouldn't exist in the game's logic. As the ogre's shadow surrounds him, Melissa panics, knowing Alan is only level 25 and without any defensive armor. She realizes that a single strike from a level 50 boss will kill him instantaneously. In a desperate attempt to save him, she races forward, intending to take the blow in his place, but she rapidly realizes with dread that she isn't going to make it in time. Melissa reaches out in a state of complete panic, screaming Alan's name as the crystal ogre descends with its gigantic club. The beast is pouring the full weight of its strength into a strike, aimed to terminate the fight. Despite the oncoming menace, our boy keeps his position and points a revolver directly upward at the creature. He remains completely cool and calculated, noting that while the ogre surprisingly used the manticore as a springboard to dodge his first shot, the present scenario is still within his predictions. An explosion suddenly fills the scene, followed by a digital signal indicating that his weapon is reloading. Alan stands in confidence because he had already considered this particular date into his plan. A second tremendous burst of fire erupts, forcing Melissa to protect her eyes from the force of the blast. As the smoke clears, a badge emerges to show Alan has passed level 26. He takes a breath of relief, as the conclusion is precisely what he anticipated. Melissa glances at him with wide eyes, surprised that he was able to fire again when she believed he had run out of ammunition. Alan says that his rocket launcher contains an auto-reload mode that triggers the moment the ammo count hits 0. He reveals to her that the scenario was actually pretty hazardous, stating that if the reload hadn't finished in time, he would have died. While Melissa considers him remarkably calm for someone who had faced death, the young crafter says that he merely moves with serenity because he already accounted for the second shot before the conflict ever began. After scooping up a purple magic stone from the wreckage, he sets his sights on their ultimate objective, the Crystal Dragon. Melissa watches him, thinking about how she has seen many strong explorers, but none who possess his level of perfect confidence. She learns this unusual strength is exactly why high-ranking figures are pursuing his life. The pair eventually arrives at the upper floors of the castle, standing before a big ornate golden door. While Melissa prepares for a final struggle inside the gate, Alan stops her and informs her that the door is just for show. He says that this floor utilizes a portal system similar to the middle floors, and since the portal is invisible, it indicates someone else is already inside challenging the boss. This revelation stresses Melissa immensely, as she fears they will have to start over if another group clears the dungeon first. Our hero advises her that worrying is worthless and proposes they sit down to devise a strategy while they wait. He cautions her that the Crystal Dragon is an epic class monster, which is a grade even higher than a typical boss. These creatures feature distinct traits, and in the dragon's instance, it has a damage cap that cancels any power beyond a set limit. This makes Alan's overwhelming firepower less effective, requiring them to rely on a specific plan. He urges Melissa to focus on wiping out the infinite waves of minor foes that will spawn, while he handles the boss and its immediate kill attack. Suddenly, the blue doorway on the wall activates, suggesting that the previous party's battle is over. Alan deduces that the other adventurers were likely annihilated, as fleeing the boss area is difficult once combat begins. Although Melissa is frightened about the idea of fighting an enemy that just wiped out a skilled squad, our kid reassures her that they will prevail if they stick to the strategy. As they enter through the portal together, he tells himself that he cannot afford to die until he becomes the first person to reach the level cap. They emerge into a vast Colosseum-like arena littered with the bodies of fallen adventurers. Before they can dwell on the location, dark energy explodes from the ground, and the huge crystal dragon appears, howling with immense pressure. As blue-skinned minions near them, Alan encourages Melissa not to let the pressure get to her. He materializes a gigantic Gatling cannon and begins shredding through the air with rapid-fire shots. He knows that while the damage cap is a problem for single heavy hits, the high volume of bullets from a Gatling cannon is the appropriate antidote. Melissa watches in astonishment as Alan suppresses the epic-class boss, and she begins casting her own power to clear off the minions. However, the momentum shifts as Alan's gun emits a clicking sound, signaling he is out of ammo. The crystal dragon seizes the opening and flies into the air to prepare its instant kill attack, the Black Death Flame. As purple energy accumulates in the dragon's maw, Alan cries for Melissa to get back. He lunges forward and utilizes his craft skill to generate a gigantic fire-resistant metal barrier immediately from the ground. Huddled behind the freestanding barrier, Alan explains that they can survive the instant death move as long as they avoid direct contact with the flames. He waits for his rifle to complete reloading so they may counterattack. Unfortunately, the scheme goes awry as cracks begin to appear on the shield's surface. Our boy looks on in disbelief, recognizing the shield's endurance is insufficient to hold back the dragon's might. The barrier shatters into bits, sending both of them backward as the dragon continues its onslaught. Refusing to die in such a place, Alan's eyes flood with wrath. He stretches out his palm as enormous bolts of electricity explode around him, activating his craft skill with a final desperate surge of force. As the skill activation completes, Alan is holding a red metal cylinder, which leaves Melissa looking on in complete amazement. She demands to know what the bizarre device is, and he calmly labels it as a modern fire extinguisher. He explains to himself that a fire extinguisher was the most reasonable tool to manifest for this precise scenario. To ensure it could tackle a high-level threat, he combined the device with a mystical stone from a crystal ogre. Although he is unclear if a household item can stop a monster, the young man bets all on his abilities and dashes toward the dragon's energy explosion. He points the nozzle forward and emits a big surge of compressed white foam. This spray meets head-on with the flames, causing a shockwave that totally absorbs the dragon's breath. Melissa is startled to see an epic-grade instant death strike nullified by such a weird equipment. While his colleague watches in awe, Alan gently sets the extinguisher aside and explains that it isn't a weapon, but simply a tool for its intended use. Now that the immediate danger has passed, our protagonist grabs the reloaded heavy Gatling gun again and announces it is time for a counterattack. He pulls the trigger, delivering a quick volley of bullets that causes the dragon's health to decrease swiftly. Seeing the tactic is working, Melissa runs forward to join him. He shouts for her to disregard the smaller monsters so they may focus all their might on the boss. Melissa coordinates her magic with his shooting, causing the crystal dragon's health bar to strike 0 and the beast to disintegrate into particles. A system notification confirms the dragon has been slain, rewarding our kid with a jump to level 27 and Melissa to level 51. As the arena goes quiet, Melissa notes that Alan seems amazingly calm despite the close call they just had. The young guy rejects the criticism, declaring that winning is the only thing that matters before picking up a new magic stone from the floor. When Melissa asks about the Jade Dragon Orb, he points to a stone treasure chest that appeared after the boss perished. He explains the mechanics of dungeon rewards and watches as Melissa opens the chest to uncover a red, pulsating heart-shaped trinket. Just as the sorcerer reaches for the reward, Alan's manner alters. He draws a revolver and points it directly at her head with a sinister expression. He cautions her that once she removes the orb, the dungeon will automatically transport them outside. And he hasn't forgotten the promise they made. He demands to know who sent the assassins after him before they go. Melissa sighs and asks him to put the weapon away, pledging to hold up her half of the promise. After Alan lowers the gun, she shares a frustrating reality. She doesn't actually know the precise individual behind the hit. This causes Alan to raise his weapon again in rage, but Melissa swiftly emphasizes that she has identified the group involved. Alan exhales and listens as Melissa says that the suspects belong to the Adventurer Guild. This news strikes our hero in genuine amazement, as the guild's principal objective is to defeat the Demon King. Melissa argues that since Alan is far too strong for his level, he is a challenge to the existing quo. If the Demon King is defeated, the world becomes tranquil, and the guild would eventually be abolished. Due to this, several members are assassinating talented adventurers to safeguard their own careers and influence. Our boy recognizes this reflects what the assassin in the desert taught him about big shots, not appreciating his strength. Melissa further says that there is a special group inside the guild called the Demon King's Remnant faction. These folks don't want the battle to stop, yet they aren't necessarily working with the demon army. She confesses that the faction's commander is unclear as its members aren't merely guild CEOs. The group could comprise anybody from weapon merchants to pub proprietors who profit from the continued existence of adventurers. Alan finds the scope of the plot frustrating, but he remains committed. He assures Melissa that he won't allow anyone to interfere with his aim of reaching the level cap. He then asks her how other targeted prospects are handling similar assassination attempts, forcing Melissa to awkwardly defend her own reputation as a prospective adventurer before prepared to discuss their protective measures. Later, a wave of magical energy envelops every adventurer inside the Sky Castle, violently teleporting them back to the ground. This rapid dislocation leaves the gathering in a state of total perplexity as they realize someone has successfully conquered the dungeon. Their bewilderment turns to disbelief when an announcement board materializes in the bright sky, officially stating that the party of Alan and Melissa has vanquished the boss. While the name Melissa is readily recognized as belonging to a top-tier sorcerer, the bystanders are perplexed by the presence of a second name, since they find it hard to imagine a couple could clear an area built for huge, high-level groups. Luckily, the pair arrives in front of the audience. As they walk toward the next town, Melissa queries how Alan means to descend from such a height, since he does not fulfill the level required for the formal teleportation procedure. He seems unfazed, stating he will just create a parachute to manage the drop. Before they can depart, they are swarmed by a crowd of high-level adventurers who have assembled to celebrate the clear. These veterans are surprised to learn that a two-person team succeeded to reach the upper floors, and they promptly crown Melissa as a celebrity. Melissa initially tries to wallow in the acclaim, but she eventually points squarely at Alan to convey that he is the one that actually carrying the team. However, when the crowd views his status and sees he is just a level 27 artisan, they react with mockery and suspicion. They consider the artisan class as a rubbish job, and believe it unlikely that a low-level beginner could contribute to such an accomplishment. Seeing all these high-ranking eyes on him, Alan understands this is a fantastic moment to market his weapons, yet he swiftly decides against it, since standing out too much will garner more unwanted attention from the Demon King's remains and make his leveling tougher. He chooses to conceal his involvement. He tells the crowd a premeditated deception, claiming Melissa vanquished the dragon alone, while he was simply there to handle minor gimmicks. Melissa is astonished by this sudden humility, but she finally realizes he is purposely giving her the credit to protect himself. She accepts the acclaim of the throng, even if she feels flustered by the idea that she was basically just tagging along for the trip. Once they reach the royal capital, the two prepare to separate ways. Melissa wishes to go to the guild to swap magic stones, while Alan decides to head directly to an inn. He plans to keep his stones as raw materials for his next series of innovations. Their farewell is somewhat direct, which offends Melissa's pride. She admits that she feels it is unjust to have received the item she desired while only offering Alan scant information about his foes. As she hates feeling like she owes him a favor, she promises to use her connections to examine the Demon King's remnants as extensively as possible. She urges him to keep cautious and expresses a desire to hunt together again, playfully promising to carry him next time. Our hero goes away into the sunlight, while Melissa watches him go, pondering on the fact that even she finds it hard to believe she was just carried by a level 27 crafter. Unfortunately, the chunk of the capital is short-lived. Melissa's acute instincts instantly detect a wave of bloodlust coming from the shadows. A masked assassin hidden on a rooftop draws back a bow and unleashes an arrow aiming directly at Alan's back. Melissa screams a warning just as the missile rushes through the bustling street. Since our boy has spent his life developing his reflexes, he performs a rapid, deliberate dodge. The assassin is astonished by this display of quickness and quickly disappears into the rooftops before Melissa can give chase. This close call makes it evident that the guild's shadow faction is getting desperate enough to attack inside the city gates. Alan knows that at this rate, he will be unable to stroll about or hunt without being continually harassed. This knowledge compels him to evaluate an approach Melissa offered for coping with chronic dangers. Although he initially finds the concept of paying for protection expensive and unpleasant, he acknowledges that he needs a more permanent solution. He informs Melissa that he will do things his own way, but understands that they are now officially party members. As he goes through the streets alone, Alan dwells about his old life. In the original game, he was a lonely player who saw companions as dead weight that slowed down his efficiency. However, following his experiences with Emma and now Melissa, he begins to wonder that having allies might not be that awful after all. He instantly throws the thought away, as his major attention remains the assassins. The next morning, his search for a solution brings him to a majestic entryway under a crimson and gold banner. Despite his fondness for solo play, the interference from the Demon King's remains has now led him to seek out the one location he never thought he would visit: the Clan Association. The plot switches back to one day earlier, specifically the moments immediately following the defeat of the Crystal Dragon inside the Sky Castle. While standing in the corridor, Melissa brings up the urgent necessity for countermeasures against the assassins targeting Alan. She says that the most effective method for him to secure safety is to join an adventurer clan. Although our youngster is already familiar with what clans are, he doubts how joining a herd of players will actually assist in stopping professional killers. Melissa explains using the logic of the animal kingdom, observing that there is safety in numbers, as predators are less likely to target a large group. She proposes a high-ranking, large-scale organization, as major clans often have strong relationships to influential people. This captures the eye of the child, since he recalls the guild leaders expressing their own chosen clans during his last meeting. Since joining a group would allow him to both secure his safety and gain intelligence on his foes, he decides to follow her advice. Back in the current day, Alan arrives at the crowded Clan Association Hall. As he looks about at the many booths, he wonders how to select a group that matches his special needs. His arrival doesn't go ignored, as nearby people begin murmuring about his reputation. Even though he is just level 27, he has become popular among the general public for smashing the Wolf Mine record and clearing the Sky Castle with Melissa. Our hero ignores the attention and focuses on the different reception desks. He observes that every clan has a specific type, such as Conquest for clearing dungeons, or others focusing on defensive, social, subjugation, and gathering. There are also broad types that handle a bit of everything. While Conquest and Subjugation appear to be the most popular, Alan remains indifferent to what others choose. His search is stopped when a guy with spiky hair named Max arrives and reveals himself as the head of the Gaziels, a B-rank Conquest clan, and asks the young artisan to lend them his strength. Before Alan can react, a blonde man from a B-rank general clan named the Tigers cuts in, saying that a varied group would offer a better experience. The two leaders rapidly descend into a furious argument about who gets to recruit him. This show gathers a crowd of recruiters who begin shoving each other to get near to the rumored genius. Even though some witnesses are doubtful of his low level, others assume he must contain a tremendous secret. A red-haired woman even tries to attract him with intriguing experiences, while others brag about their high positions or enormous memberships. The pandemonium drives Alan to step back and demand silence. He thanks them for the invites, but strongly emphasizes that he is only interested in joining a defense clan that is A rank or above. This specific condition shocks the gathering, as defense clans are known for their severe character. Our protagonist has a reasonable rationale for this option, since defense groups have direct links with government officials and lords, making them the excellent source for acquiring intel on the shadow side. Furthermore, he aims to use the pretext of defensive operations to transfer his modern weapons to distant towns for more passive experience. He cautions the recruiters that if they don't meet these terms, he has no interest in negotiating. Most of the recruiters immediately lose interest and go away, leaving Alan worried that he might have been too demanding. Luckily, a man in plate armor named Flynn approaches him. Flynn reveals that he is the master of the Holy Guardian, an A-rank defense clan. Alan is really impressed when he sees that Flynn is level 378, a height rarely reached even in the original game. Flynn stares at him seriously and reminds him that their discipline is rigorous and offers no special treatment. Recalling Melissa's recommendation that a trial membership would be a good opportunity to test the waters and build his reputation, Alan agrees to join on a short basis. Flynn considers this acceptable and extends a formal invitation through the digital link. Our boy taps the accept button, officially joining the Holy Guardian. Flynn walks his new recruit to the clan's headquarters, which is a large white mansion located in the capital. Once inside a quiet office, the leader begins detailing the operational procedures of a defense-type clan. He confirms that their main duty is to intercept the Demon King's army in several locations. However, Alan is unhappy to hear that they exclusively function in three-person parties made of people with similar ranks. This bothers him, as being linked to a group of low-level players would considerably slow down his progress toward the level cap. Flynn further says that Alan's present tasks will be limited to patrolling the city until his level increases. This incident puts Alan in a terrible predicament. Simple patrols yield no experience points, and wandering the streets would leave him vulnerable to the same assassins who tried to assassinate him the day before. He recognizes he cannot operate under these limited conditions, but merely quitting won't solve the problem of the Shadow faction. He concludes that he needs to participate in high-level defensive missions to be safe and continue his evolution. To fix this, Alan stares Flynn in the eye and makes a bold request to bypass the patrol phase. When Flynn insists on following the rules, the young maker provides a technique to prove his strength. He challenges the high-level master to a duel, declaring that as he wins, he must be granted a special exception to the rules. Flynn glances at him with a calm and slightly amused face, admitting he admires the zeal, but finally refuses the challenge. As there is no value in it for him, the master proposes that Alan simply participate in normal clan activities for a week before revisiting the subject. Alan closes his eyes in resignation, concluding that further argument is worthless. He agrees to the terms, but reminds himself that since this is merely a trial membership, he is prepared to quit if the arrangement doesn't fit. The chat is interrupted by a knock at the door, signifying the entrance of the group members Alan will be working with. Flynn introduces them as Naoki and Hina, a pair of lancers. Naoki is a level 55 adventurer who quickly greets the newcomer with a confident and lively attitude, while Hina is a level 40 who provides a kind smile. Our lad is initially doubtful of the coupling, since party members normally have comparable levels, but Flynn clarifies that these two are the lowest-rated members of the A-rank clan. Naoki have a closer look at Alan, and mockingly queries if the youngster will be okay, remarking that he appears terribly feeble. Hina tries to pull her companion back by his ear to apologize for the rudeness, but the tension only escalates when the lancers realize Alan's status. Upon finding he is just a level 27 artisan, Naoki views the profession as a horrible employment. Luckily, Hina knows the name and asks if he is the same Alan that cleared the Crystal Sky Castle with Melissa the day before. Naoki is astonished by the allegation, but Flynn simply chuckles and concedes that the achievement is extremely spectacular. When our hero asks if the master was likewise unaware of his identity, Flynn replies that he had just caught a glimpse of the uproar at the clan association and opted to recruit him based on the enormous amount of attention he was receiving. Hina is pleased at the possibility of teaming with someone renowned, but Naoki stays defensive. He tries to belittle the achievement by implying Alan simply leached off Melissa's celebrity position. Flynn wants the trio to go out on a hunt immediately so they can get a feel on each other's talents. Naoki stumbles into Alan and arrogantly tells the novice that this is his only chance to admit he is weak. Our protagonist finds the incessant posturing bothersome and determines the shortest way through the situation is to simply flatter the elder. He raises his hands in a submissive gesture and lies, claiming that Melissa absolutely ruled the dungeon while he did nothing. This satisfies Naoki's ego, and he loudly advises the youngster not to sweat it before leading the group out. As they go, Flynn watches them with a serious face. He knows Alan is lying, as it is physically impossible for a level 27 player to even reach the Sky Castle without a unique means. He believes that an adventurer who makes the unthinkable happen is considerably more than an ordinary leech. The group arrives at the Forest of Trents, a region suited for level 35 gamers. Alan comments to himself that he normally avoided this place in the first game, as the experience points were poor for the effort involved. Hina reveals that the forest is packed with monsters called Trents that mimic ordinary trees, making them impossible to see without detection skills. When our lad offers to make some detection tools to help, Naoki advises him not to underestimate them. However, Alan's acute instincts allow him to perceive a threat before the veterans do. He cautions them to check their left, just before a level 35 Trent emerges with glowing red eyes. The group dodges the initial assault, and the two lancers immediately coordinate their actions. Alan watches them work, watching how normal adventurers fight using teamwork and spear skills. Naoki grins and asks what the novice thinks of their skill, and Alan neutrally says that it isn't awful. This lukewarm appreciation infuriates Naoki, but Hina instructs him to focus as they finish out the first monster. Suddenly, 3 more Trents emerge from the shadows and surround them. Naoki says this is the perfect time for the newbie to prove himself, offering to back him up if things go bad. Alan finds the offer reassuring and prepared to act. Blue energy forms around his palm as he activates his craft skill. In an instant, a black Gatling pistol materializes in his hands, leaving his partners in absolute disbelief. Alan concludes that while he could create a thermal scope to locate the hidden adversaries, it is far faster to simply mow down the entire area. He pulls the trigger, and the woodland is filled with the flames of gunfire. The sheer volume of the barrage lowers the woods and vaporizes the beasts instantly. As the dust clears, Alan stands with his smoldering weapon and calmly assures his senior that he managed to handle the issue. Hina is in awe at the destruction, while Naoki is pale with panic, yet he still tries to appear tough by calling it a decent job for a rookie. The win is cut short when Alan detects someone else in the darkness. A figure emerges from the trees with a maniacal smirk. It is Lucas, the bully from the prior dungeon, and he makes it plain he has finally tracked Alan down for a confrontation. Our protagonist simply glances back at his old foe with an utterly indifferent attitude. When Alan honestly questions who he is, Lucas begins shaking with wrath, yelling at the top of his lungs. He is yearning for recognition, reminding the group that Alan embarrassed him back at the wolf mine. Our protagonist maintains calmly questioning how breaking a record is supposed to be embarrassing for someone else. This dismissive attitude drives Naoki and Hina to watch from the sidelines, feeling frightened by the man's terrifying demeanor. To illustrate his superiority, Lucas presents a status box saying he has attained level 73. Alan notices this and knows that Lucas has leveled up 8 times in just 1 week. He emphasizes that by the standards of this world, such expansion is very efficient. Lucas maintains this effort was totally for the goal of defeating him. But our hero finds the thought of a fight meaningless. He points out that they are not in an instance dungeon, thus there is no possibility to compete over clear times. This causes Lucas to draw a sword, demanding a one-on-one duel immediately. When Alan asks about his prior comrades, Lucas chuckles and reveals that he dumped those useless scrubs to focus on his revenge. Naoki and Hina find this behavior disgusting and unjust, but Lucas shuts them down with a terrible red-eyed look that leaves them recoiling in dread. Our protagonist decides to accept the challenge, even though he believes a duel provides him too big of an edge. He materializes a revolver, but Lucas reacts with uncontrollable laughter. Having threatened people back at the wolf mine for information, Lucas feels he understands the secret of the weapon. He believes the firearms only function on monsters and are worthless against humans. He even mockingly recommends that Alan should make a sword if he wants a real chance. Without hesitation, our hero pulls the gun. The gunshot grazes the top of Lucas's ear, causing blood to spatter and leaving the bully in agonizing shock. Alan stands tall over his opponent, pointing the smoking barrel at him while stating that the man's intelligence is completely out of date. Luckily for Lucas, the shot was just a scratch, but the dread of the moment drives him to collapse and grab his head. Alan stands over him, saying that the next shot will go straight through if he doesn't go. This threat works brilliantly, and the bully scrambles to his feet, flees into the woods while shouting a desperate farewell warning. As the pistol melts into blue energy, Naoki is left in disbelief that a level 27 could so easily brush off a level 73. Meanwhile, Hina observes Alan with glittering eyes and a deep blush, finding him exceedingly cool. This shift in her focus leaves Naoki feeling astonished and jealous. The party ultimately begins traveling deeper into the jungle to find the Treant King. Hina rushes along with Alan, thanking him for being so faithful and illustrating that crafters may be strong depending on the user. Alan says that the profession has numerous idiosyncrasies but matches his personality wonderfully. When he asks Hina why she chose to be a lancer, she begins to fidget and blush. This interaction drives Naoki to sweat with envy, believing that the newcomer is going to steal his boyhood friend away. To avoid further bonding, Naoki pushes between them and demands that Hina focus on the surroundings. He then grabs Alan and marches him out into the trees for a private discussion, leaving a perplexed Hina sitting on the ground. Once they are alone, Naoki admits that the strategy meeting was only an excuse. He instantly collapses on his knees and bends his head to the ground, imploring Alan to stay away from Hina. He explains that he has profound romantic feelings for her, and that Alan's great performance is making it hard for him to stand out. Our boy lets out a deep sigh of tiredness, finding the drama to be a tremendous pain. Since he has no interest in romance, he figures it is more expedient to help the two get together quickly so he can get back to his grind. He offers a scheme where he will pretend to struggle during the forthcoming boss fight, allowing Naoki to step in and save the day. Naoki is pleased by the offer and rushes to hug Alan, who hastily pushes him away. As the company approaches a clearing, they are greeted with the Treant King, a boss with 3 eyes and a beard of moss. Hina is scared, but Alan encourages the two of them to keep back. He activates his craft skill to materialize an assault rifle, purposely setting the attack power to a pitiful level 5. He believes to himself that while it isn't 0, it should be weak enough to sell the act. Naoki and Hina are impressed by the new weapon. But when Alan begins firing, the bullets inflict no visible harm. He puts on a dramatic, anxious performance, pretending as if the settings are faulty and he is about to be defeated. Seeing his opening, Naoki roars and charges past him with a brave expression. He encourages Hina to watch his display and unleashes a flurry of spear strikes that cut into the monster's wood. Hina is actually impressed and blushes at his abilities, while Alan watches with a bored, deadpan look. He estimates it will take some time, but Naoki should be able to finish it. Unfortunately, Naoki grows overconfident and begins mocking the boss. This backfires as he lands on a root and the ground breaks beneath him. The Trent King throws its giant wooden arm down, pinning Naoki face down on the mud. Our hero observes with a dejected stare, recognizing his partner has failed even with the support. The monster roars in wrath and lifts its second arm to crush the terrified Naoki, who can only scream for his life. Since her lover is absolutely helpless, Hina can only watch the spectacle while shivering in abject horror. Alan watches the struggle and decides he has seen enough. He finds the display hard to witness, so he activates his craft skill with a serious gaze. Energy wraps around him as he materializes a massive black rocket launcher. A big flaming explosion follows immediately, devouring the Trent King and lighting up the dark woodland in a sudden rush of fire. This enormous destruction puts both Naoki and Hina in a state of total disbelief. As the smoke clears, the boss is gone, leaving behind only a green magic stone. Our lad approaches the coughing Naoki and checks his own status, noting that the triumph has pushed him to level 28. He asks if his partner can stand, prompting Naoki to shout his name in amazement. Hina rushes near Alan and clutches his arm with glittering eyes, anxious to know how a level 28 could insta-kill such a tough boss. This sudden intimacy infuriates Naoki, who stands up abruptly and shakes with wrath. He tries to salvage face by stating he has the matter under control and instructs the others not to butt in. Alan simply shrugs and gives a quick apology to end the fight. However, Hina turns on Naoki with wrath, calling him a jerk and an idiot for being so nasty to the guy who just saved his life. The young lancers continue to bicker until Hina turns back to Alan with a frightened, remorseful gaze. While our lad considers the ranting a bit harsh, he quietly recognizes that Naoki is simply a dumb person trying to be cool in front of the girl he adores. To smooth things down, Alan tells Hina that the triumph truly belongs to Naoki. He lies and tells that he just administered the finishing blow as the senior had already cornered the monster. This inspires Naoki to spring up with a heroic smile, feeling instantly comforted and vindicated. Despite the attempt to increase Naoki's reputation, the scheme backfires. Hina hugs Alan firmly, considering him wonderfully humble and mature for giving away the praise. She gets so enamored that she asks him out to supper alone, forcing Naoki's spirit to comically exit his body in a condition of defeat. Our hero finds the romantic drama to be a significant hardship as they eventually head back to the city. The gang goes to the Holy Guardian clan headquarters to report their progress to Flynn. Hina excitedly tells how Alan conquered the boss and chased off a level 73 bully. This draws Flynn's interest, and he discloses that the guild has a file on the swordsman named Lucas, owing to his habit of causing trouble. The master urges Alan to use the clan's name as a deterrent in the future, which makes our lad grasp the full strength and impact of a top-tier organization. Flynn congratulates them on a successful assignment, but when Hina recommends a welcome party for Alan, the master declines due to his schedule. This drives Hina to insist on bringing Alan to dinner by herself, much to Naoki's distress. Before they go, Flynn stops them with a solemn attitude to reveal a special request that came in for the next day. He reveals that a client has personally nominated Alan for a mission. Hina is amazed by the rapid recognition, but Flynn adds that this isn't a regular defense position. The requester is Lord Olivia of the frontline city of Beamdale, and she wants Alan to distribute his unusual weaponry, which Hina labels as guns, to the populace. Flynn admits he has never heard of such technology. Although the mission sounds weird, Alan accepts immediately. He perceives the chance to hand out weapons as a tremendous opportunity, as it will allow him to acquire large amounts of passive experience from the locals' future battles. He officially verifies his membership in the clan, but a sudden thought makes him skeptical. He understands it is highly weird for a lord in a distant frontline city to know about a level 28 trial member who just joined. He asks Flynn how the client could possibly have known his position. Flynn dismisses the concern, claiming the Lord presumably examined the real-time member roster. He encourages Alan to ask Lord Olivia himself if he is truly curious. The two men lock eyes in a tight moment of mutual distrust. Our hero notes that the flow of information regarding his movements is going extremely fast for someone of his rank. While he promises to perform the mission correctly, he cannot shake the suspicion that something is awry. As the trio walks around the capital at sunset, Alan wonders on the timing of the nomination. He begins to question if Flynn, too, might be a secret member of the Shadow faction, seeking to interfere with his advancement. The adventure continues in the walled city of Beamdale, which is serving as the scene for the next step of the journey. Alan and company are transferred onto a stone walkway, where the two friends respond with excitement at their arrival. As they stand at the battlements, the party decides to head inside immediately to begin their task. However, once they enter the wide streets, our boy detects a disturbing absence of foot traffic and discovers that all the shops are closed. This sense of uneasiness develops as he witnesses other armored warriors slumped against walls in a state of complete fatigue. The gravity of the situation becomes evident when a soldier atop a high wall suddenly yells a panicked warning for the party to check behind them. A big level 55 giant lizard crawls out on the ground, shocking Hina as a boss-class creature has managed to infiltrate the city streets. As the creature lunges forward with snapping jaws, Alan leaps high into the air to dodge the hit. While suspended aloft, he utilizes his craft ability, causing energy to appear around him. A black rocket launcher materializes in his hands, and he calmly comments that attacking someone the instant they teleport is a significant breach of etiquette. Our hero pulls the trigger while still in flight, unleashing a tremendous fire that hits the reptile directly and produces a colossal explosion. He lands elegantly on one knee as the monster is slain in a single blow, leaving the neighboring soldiers and his comrades in absolute awe at the might of the weapon. Although Hina is amazed by his abilities, the celebration is cut short when a flock of level 40 birds, known as mud gastromas, charges through the smoke as reinforcements. Before Alan has to shoot again, a man riding a horse charges into the scene, swinging a halberd. This man slices through the birds in a single strike, leaving blood splattering throughout the landscape. The rider stops in front of the gathering and presents himself as Gordo, the captain of the Royal Guard. He adds that he has been commanded by Lady Olivia to receive Alan's party. While our protagonist observes that the captain's status is hidden, he follows the man's direction toward an elaborate carriage. Naoki and Hina are in awe at the extravagant hospitality, figuring it represents the high expectations placed on their buddy. Gordo affirms this sentiment, adding that the city's finances are on the edge of collapse given the ongoing fighting. He reveals that Lady Olivia is putting her hopes on the sophisticated weapons Alan can produce to break the current impasse. As our lad moves toward the carriage, he resolves to match these expectations, while quietly wondering where the shadow faction targeting him may be lurking. The scene moves to the Adventurers Guild offices, where a high-ranking official named Zainid sits. He is examining a dossier showing a photograph of the 5 dead assassins, along by reports explaining how Alan counterattacked and defeated them in the wasteland. The documents also show that the target has joined the Holy Guardian clan and is now being tracked on his journey to Beamdale. Zainid looks up with a severe gaze, seeing that Beamdale is sadly too far away for their surveillance to reach. He knows that Alan is the one and only person capable of constructing the unknown weapon known as a gun, and he determines he must act promptly before the young maker becomes a permanent roadblock. The office doors open to admit a man in a yellow suit, followed by a girl in blue overalls. Zainid greets the newcomer as Hiroshi, the #1 crafter in the realm, who boasts an astounding level of 175. While Hiroshi is a legend, Zainid is immediately wary of the girl, as she is not the famed blacksmith Benjamin he was anticipating. The red-haired girl, Annette, firmly announces herself as Benjamin's daughter and a level 13 blacksmith. She asserts that her knowledge is a great match for her father's, and since Benjamin vouches for her, Zainid agrees to begin the briefing. Zainid places an AK-47 on the table, asking the couple to evaluate its structure. As they lean closer, Annette is impressed by the unusual shape. While Hiroshi agrees the physical device is considerably more sophisticated than the movie he had seen, the master crafter picks up the weapon to inspect its mechanisms. Noting its 30-round capacity and the fact that it remains disabled for a few seconds during its automatic reload. Comparing it to a crossbow, Hiroshi pulls the trigger and unleashes a series of quick fires that completely annihilate a training dummy. He laughs with glee at the amazing rate of fire, but both he and Annette feel the creator must be at an unimaginably high level to manifest such a thing. Zainid maintains a chilly expression and shatters their expectations by disclosing that Alan's level was just 15 when he developed the weapon. This revelation leaves Hiroshi and Annette in absolute shock, as they find it hard to believe a rookie could achieve such results. Zainid insists it is a fact, and commissions them to construct a duplicate, saying that even an inferior version would be valuable as long as they grasp the structure. Because the base power of a made weapon is impacted by the creator's level, Annette realizes that if Hiroshi builds a copy, the attack power will be over 10 times stronger than Alan's original. Hiroshi breaks into a nasty grin, finding the effort rewarding. With the analysis going, Zainid explains his eventual intention to establish a devoted crafting army to produce these guns, while coldly saying that he will just have Alan dead. Inside the Gothic stone manor of the frontline city, Alan and his teammates are escorted into a vast audience hall to see the local authority. A woman named Olivia sits upon the throne. She introduces herself as the Lord of Beamdale and welcomes the troop for traveling so far to assist her. While Hina is noticeably worried and whispers to our protagonist about using formal language, Alan maintains his customary easygoing approach. Luckily, the Lord is gracious and simply laughs off his lack of manners, enabling the young artisan to get straight to business. He asks where he should begin the distribution procedure, but Olivia pauses to request a demonstration first. She says that as the leader of this territory, she wants to examine the safety and performance of these odd technology before they are distributed to her people. Understood. Alan extends his palm and enables mana to form, manifesting a contemporary assault rifle in an instant. The sight leaves Olivia and her guardians in a state of astonishment. Our hero moves forward to explain that while there are numerous sorts of weaponry, the basic operation is straightforward. To show the ease of use, he quickly aims the gun at Naoki and pulls the trigger, riddling his buddy with bullets fire. Although Naoki falls backward in a panic and yells in wrath, Alan maintains absolutely composed. He reveals that he purposefully set a restriction on the weapon so it delivers 0 damage to humans, adding with a dry humor that Naoki was simply too easy of a target to pass up. Olivia is incredibly amazed by the show, realizing that these weapons allow even regular inhabitants to battle with minimum risk. She envisions her people firing from above the city walls, which would substantially relieve the burden on her fatigued men. However, Hina is concerned about why the Lord is employing civilians at all, as she feels the professional defense clans should be enough. Olivia's countenance grows serious as she conveys the sad reality of their situation. Because the Demon Lord's army strikes multiple times a month, the city must maintain a perpetual state of readiness. The maintenance costs for hiring many defensive clans are substantial, and despite government subsidies, the city's resources are completely stressed. Alan reveals for a perplexed Hina that the city is practically running out of money, making the reconstruction of the economy a serious and urgent matter. Hina is amazed by our boy's vocabulary, which leads her to flush while Naoki grumbles in jealousy. Alan cuts the small talk short, stating that he can only create 99 guns at a time and wants to maximize his efficiency. Olivia guides them to a distribution station in the central square and receives the gun Alan used for the demo as a personal present. As the party is escorted away by a guard, Olivia and her captain Gordo stay behind to examine the matter. They find it tough to imagine that a level 28 could build gear with such great performance, leading them to suspect Alan has a secret technique. Olivia focuses on the guild executive's recent interest in the youngster, noting that his base attack power is surprisingly strong for someone without any gear or attachments. She looks out with a serious gaze, wondering if Alan might possibly be the exact vessel chosen to slay the Demon Lord. The scene changes to the central plaza, where locals are busily gathering around crates of black guns and rocket launchers. While others are anxious about their abilities to operate such advanced technology, the high figures on the gear give them a sense of hope. Meanwhile, the foursome takes a break at a local tavern. Even while eating pizza, Alan's hand glows with blue mana as he continues to build weapons in the background, a display of multitasking that Naoki finds remarkable. Hina moves in to question why he doesn't wear any accessories, pointing out that his firepower would expand even more if he boosted his base stats. Alan's present status indicates an attack power of only 56, which makes Hina understand that his strength is already so strong that gear appears unneeded to him. Naoki is resentful of their indifference, but our hero corrects them. He reveals that while he doesn't care about attack enhancements, he is truly interested in defensive accessories that counteract poison, paralysis, or other status afflictions. He tells himself that unlike the game, dying here is irreversible, thus he needs to prioritize survival gear immediately. This period of meditation is suddenly interrupted by a powerful tremor that shakes the entire building. A soldier bursts through the tavern entrance in a state of extreme terror, shouting that the Demon Lord's army has launched a fresh attack. While his teammates gaze on in shock, Alan maintains calm, ready to see his weaponry put to the ultimate test. Outside the lofty walls of Beamdale, a vast enemy horde sweeps across the valley. High above on the battlements, Alan organizes a mob of armed townspeople for battle, much to the confusion of a competing adventuring party nearby. A woman in a witch hat and a man in a brown vest mock the situation, presuming our boy and his teammates are low-level novices. The young artisan ignores the insults to focus on educating a resident to operate a rocket launcher, demonstrating the rudimentary principles of aiming and shooting. While his partners rejoice, the witchwoman's arrogant smirk fades when she finds they are truly members of the elite Holy Guardian clan. Despite this, the enormous man remained contemptuous, describing Alan and his buddies as simple bottom feeders of a major corporation. The witchwoman continues her examination, and observes that the level 28 craftsman is the one who truly troubles her. She finds it hard to believe a low-level player could be significant. Meanwhile, our protagonist scans the staggering number of adversaries below. He sees that the monsters are roughly level 50, giving them a formidable danger for a normal defense. Luckily, the local commander in silver plate armor takes command, and directs everyone to prepare for ranged attacks. As the villagers line up their rocket launchers, the witch woman and a neighboring archer prepare their own traditional spells and arrows. The captain yells at the top of his lungs to give the firing command. With Alan spreading high-powered weaponry, the following volley causes a sequence of huge muzzle flashes. A sequence of massive explosions smashes through the opponent army at the base of the wall, rapidly vaporizing half of the opposition forces. As smoke drifts across the battlements, Naoki and Hina cough in the cloud, shocked by the tremendous destructive power. This massive kill total triggers a level-up message for our hero, pushing him from level 28 to 30. The captain stands at the brink of the wall in absolute amazement, understanding that half the army was wiped off in a single moment. And delighted resident approaches Alan to inquire if they can use the weapons again, and our kid points out that the gear has already reloaded. He pushes them to give the beasts another taste of their strength. The locals fire a second time, blowing away the remaining enemies with ease. They rejoice at the fact that they no longer have to fear the Demon King's remnant, as long as they have these tools. The rival adventurers are stunned speechless by the bloodshed. The captain clenches his teeth in a cold sweat, conceding that while he knew the weapons were strong, their clearing power when employed by a group is beyond anything he expected. Our protagonist turns to the captain and reports that while the initial waves are gone, a few escapees are still close in. He asks for new orders, causing the captain to tell the citizens to fall back so the professional soldiers can handle the stragglers. The archers fire a salvo of arrows, but the witch woman and her team sit against the walls, looking defeated, recognizing there is no job left for them to perform. The captain raises his fist and declares a historic triumph with 0 casualties. While the locals swarm around Alan to thank him for ending the brawl so swiftly, Hina realizes that Alan looks upset. He acknowledges that he truly lost out on a rare chance to level up. Hina is perplexed, since he just achieved 2 levels, but he explains that with the quantity of adversaries, he should have gained at least 10 levels is not for the level cap. Hina then remembers the novice trial at the royal capital. Since the system bans adventurers from attaining level 30 without passing this formal test, all that potential experience was effectively wasted. Our boy stares down at the magic stones on the battlefield, regretting that such a large opportunity for experience won't likely happen again soon. His thoughts are interrupted as Lord Olivia approaches and claps her hands to congratulate him. While the giant man from the other clan ogles the Lord, the witch woman scolds him for being an idiot. Olivia speaks with her captain, confessing she was astonished to see the combat was completed before she even arrived to observe. She sees that the weapons used by the people are different from the ones she received, and Alan reveals that he specialized these for area of effect damage to suit the defensive position. Olivia is immensely satisfied and makes a big announcement. As the inhabitants can now defend themselves, she is revoking the contracts of every other defense clan, save for the Holy Guardian. Furthermore, she decides to treble the Holy Guardian's charge as a usage payment for the weapons. This prompts Hina and Naoki to celebrate, but the giant guy from the other clan begs her to reconsider, claiming his little group won't survive without the job. Olivia looks at him with a dark, frightening aura and coldly questions if his survival has anything to do with her community. She argues that since the exorbitant maintenance expenditures were sucking the city dry, it is only logical to cut links with unneeded groups. The residents join in, shouting at the departing adventurers and labeling them useless tax thieves. The enormous man looks in shame, while Olivia offers a tiny apology by covering their teleportation charges. As the opposition party leaves, the enormous man glares back with deep anger. Hina and Naoki feel a bit terrible for stealing the employment of other professionals, but Olivia reassures them. She tells out that while the other clans lost money, Alan has brought peace and happiness back to a village that was struggling to exist. She encourages him to keep giving these smiles to every town fighting the war. While the companions answer enthusiastically, the enormous man from the opposite clan is sweating with wrath. He realizes that if Alan spreads these weapons to other cities, his entire enterprise will collapse. Our person begins pacing along the battlements, eager to finish the distribution so he can return to the capital for his trial. Suddenly, the enormous man runs up behind him and begs to get a closer look at a weapon. Before our lad can react, the man kicks him in the back with all his power, sending him flying off the towering wall. Olivia watches in terror as the young artisan disappears over the brink. Convinced that the fall will kill the protagonist and prevent the weapons from ever circulating farther,